Our solutions for quiz 2, math 243. We have some data here. I guess we got 15 observations of the average math SAT score by state. Okay. And what we want to do is argue whether the data is left skewed, right skewed, or approximately normal. So, well, I guess I can start with the answer. The answer is this data is right skewed. And there's lots of different ways you could argue this. You could do a stem and leaf plot. Maybe I'll say optional options for argument. Sure. Options for explanation, I guess is what I called it. You can either make a stem and leaf plot, in which case your stems are going to range from 50 down to 55. And then your leaves will correspond with all of our observations here. So there's 507, there's 509, there's 510, 512. We have 4 514s. And we got a 519. We got a 523, 24, and 28. We got a 531, a 542, and a 553. So if you kind of look at this, it looks like it's got a little right skewed distribution here. So maybe here's option 1. Option 2, you can make a histogram. You might want to use a calculator to do that. So what I did here is I already put my data into this calculator, but when you're putting your data in, you hit Stat, and then Edit, and then you can type in all the values. I already have my values here in L1. So now what I want to do is I want to make a stat plot, and then I'll go into my first plot here, and then I'll turn it on. And what type? I want the one that looks like a histogram. And list, where's my data? My data is in L1. That's where I put it in, so that's good. So everything's all set here. So all I got to do is set up the window. So now I'll hit this window key here. And then I want my X values to go from, well, let's see, 507 is my smallest observation. I don't know, one way you could do it is from 500 all the way up to maybe 560. So our X values will go from 500 to 560, and we can make our bins 10 each. You could put different options in there. That's just one option. That seems the most natural to me based on this data. But other options will give you a histogram that you can also draw conclusions from. Let's see, our Y. I like my Y to be -1 to have a little border around it. And at most we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like 7 observations in a given bin. So I don't know, maybe let's go up to 9 and leave everything else the same. And what our calculator will give us is a histogram. So if I hit graph here, I get a picture of a histogram. Maybe I'll say histogram, histogram from TI. That looks something like this. And let's see, in my picture, I got 500, 510, 520, 530, 540, 550, and 560. And I have 2 observations in the first one, so 1, 2. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 observations in the second one. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My third one, from 520 to 530, I got 3 observations. Sure, something like that. And then I have 1 in the remaining 3. Get a histogram that looks something like this. And our third option would be to argue, I don't know, most data is on the left, but tail goes out to the right. something like that. That's more than enough on that problem. So there's some ways you can answer that question. Part B, calculate the mean and median of this data. Okay, that's easy because I've already put my data into this list. If you hadn't, you'd have to put the data into the list. You hit stat here, and then what you want to do is go into the calc menu and go to one variable statistics, the first thing. And so one variable statistics pops up, and you have to tell it what list your data is in. If you don't tell it, it'll assume L1, which is where my data is. So I could have left it blank, but just to be safe, I'm going to put L1 in here, hit enter, and it's going to give me all sorts of information. It's going to tell me that the mean, we'll use this symbol X bar, and it's maybe I should say about 520.93. And our median, we scroll down a little bit, there it is, median is 514. Try that again. Calculate the mean and median, okay, that's it. And then, which one is a better measure of central tendency? Because the data is skewed. Median is a better measure. And that is because it's more resistant to outliers. So therefore, when it's skewed, you report median. All right, calculate the range, variance, and standard deviation of the above data. All right, the range is the easiest one. You just take your largest number and you subtract your smallest number. So in this case, Colorado had the smartest SATs, 553. And the smallest, it looks like it was North Carolina, which was 507. And so if you do 553 minus 507, you get, was that 46? And that's your range. Variance and standard deviation. Variance, you use the symbol S squared. And we'll go back to that one. Standard deviation, maybe I should say standard deviation, use the symbol S. And if we go back over here, that was one of the things listed. S sub x here is approximately 13. That came from this one, 13.008. And then the variance will be that number squared. So, I don't know, maybe we can say 13 squared is about 169, something like that. You could throw some decimal places in there if you really felt like it, but you don't have to. And that's it. That's the end of this quiz.